Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
She's not getting along well enough. I mean, asking him to do something when you're not really on good terms. Hello, no, he's not going to want to do family pictures with me.
So you guys are still like struggling and
Yeah.
anything getting better?
There's things about our relationship that we need to discuss and we need to fix.
Kody and I went through the same thing. I mean, we were bad. I mean, we could not say anything to each other.
All right, so Christine said there are things about our relationship that we have to talk about and we have to fix. I wonder what that is. In the previous conversation between Christine and Kody, Kody opened, she was in the room, and then Kody comes in and says, hey, let's talk about our relationship. The thing that I have to remind myself is that the cameras are only there some of the time. So Kody is initiating conversation of that nature in front of the cameras, which is neither here nor there. It could be a problem. It might not be. But Christine responded, you want to do that now? She says it in a hushed voice. I don't know if I showed that part of it, but the possibility that I wondered about is that she was like, in front of the cameras right now? So I don't know, but I have yet to hear from Christine, and there's been multiple disclosures around something's wrong, and she just referred to something, I think, specific. She did say she just doesn't think that he wants to be with her. So maybe that's what it is, but I'm guessing there's more there, and they've just agreed they're not going to be specific in front of the cameras. I don't know.
Setting each other off. Until you start changing and you start improving and doing things better, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay, but at what point?
Okay, so Mary is sticking by that previous statement where she's like, everyone has to address their behavior. Kody has to address his behavior, but you have to address yours as well. That's what she's telling her. And then Christine is about to say something in opposition to that, I think.
Without setting each other off. Until you start changing and you start improving and doing things better, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay, but at what point does he realize he's made mistakes too?
I don't know when that point will be.
Has he realized he's made mistakes with you? Has he talked to you about them? I'm sorry, if that's too personal, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But has it helped you?
Okay, so this is good, I think. Christine is looking to Mary for some guidance. Christine went to Mary. By the way, Mary hurt her knee skiing, which looked painful. As someone that has crashed skiing. So Christine is going to Mary for help, and then it sounds like right now Christine's asking, hey, how did you work it out? How do you work? Because I think Christine notices that Mary and Kody don't fight very much.
Has he realized he's made mistakes with you? Has he talked to you about them? I'm sorry, if that's too personal, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But has it helped you?
There have been times that he has said, okay, yeah, I was stupid. It takes him a long time. It is hard for guys, Christine, to come back and say, I was wrong.
Okay, so if you've watched this channel long enough, you know that I'm going to get up in arms about people genderizing these kinds of things. But hearing Mary finish that is one of the things that I might be able to get behind. Not because men are born that way, but they're socialized that way. Because boys are socialized to not be vulnerable, to eschew weakness, to be particularly dominant over women. They're not modeled how to take responsibility or emote or even know what their feelings are. So it can be really hard for men on average, but it's hard for everyone. Take it from me as a therapist, as a couple therapist, as a marriage therapist, that it doesn't matter what gender you are. Everyone has a hard time taking responsibility. Everyone has a hard time understanding their real emotional reactivity, which in my model of, it's not mine, but it's a common model of emotion, which postulates that we in our relationships will sometimes be hurt or afraid, where our feelings are hurt, usually because we feel rejected, disrespected, unheard, something like that, which is all just rejection and distance. Or we're afraid, usually of distance, of rejection, of future rejection, or we've already been rejected or something. I mean, sometimes fear obviously can be provoked through other things, but in terms of the attachment realm, this is what's often happening. And then from that we get angry or we shut down our emotions or something. But it all begins with hurt and anxiety. And everyone has a hard time identifying that. Almost no one without a significant amount of work and coaching and therapy and practice can even some of the time identify what's going on there. Men might be on average, particularly bad at it, but honestly, I anecdotally that I haven't seen any gender be better or worse at that. Everyone's just bad at it. Everybody. So she's saying, and maybe Mary is saying something that is true for them in their relationship, and it might help Christine of just like, hey, you have to understand that men are socialized this way, or they are this way, and you have to give him a little bit of time. As I say that out loud, is this just another part of the patriarchy that is heavily in this culture, in this religious group, in this community, in this family, that men get a pass just because, men, they have a hard time admitting that they're sorry.
It's like I have to do everything one-sided then. I have to fix me.
You do.
And it's just one-sided then.
It might be a while, but yeah, I'm serious.
And has that really helped you?
Yeah, it has.
I don't see that it has.
So I think there might be a philosophical or a communication problem right now. What Mary is saying verbatim is us women have to completely fall on our sword, and we cannot ask or depend or expect Kody to change. So we have to be the ones to change. And that's just the way that it is, because that's our lot in life, or that's all that we're worth, or something. She's not saying that, but she was basically saying that first part. But another possibility, what she is trying to convince Christine is, if you get the ball rolling, he will respond, and then you will both reciprocate in that way. Or maybe Mary's thinking, I don't know, I hear hints that Mary might actually think Christine is most of the problem. I don't know that, but a number of things that Mary has said and the way that she said it, particularly right here, might be like, I just need to convince Christine that she needs to look at herself. She has problems and she can't be constantly blaming other people for everything. So whatever I got to do to convince her to do that, then I'm going to do that. And this might be your tactic. Because I have a hard time believing that Mary literally thinks, I can never ask Kody for anything. And I have to be the one to change. Now, given their environment and the broader American culture, she might believe that's just the way that it is. There's no way around that, because women don't have rights, or women don't have, we just can't ask because we don't deserve it, or it's never happened in the history of humankind that men have reciprocated in that way, or I don't know. At the very least, I don't think this is a good way to help Christine. If I were there, there's a lot of avenues to go down, and there's no simple way. But I don't think I would do this tactic that Mary's doing, because I think Christine she wants balance. She wants reciprocity. So if I were trying to convince Christine to get the ball rolling, I would say, well, is there something you can do to start the ball rolling? And of course, he needs to make some changes too. Absolutely. And I see that he actually is trying to get the ball rolling sometimes, and I see you as well. How can we capitalize on that? How can both of you get the ball rolling by each of you making those accommodations? What's one thing you can do, or what have you been doing, or something like that? Maybe that would be a different way.
I see how you're being so sweet all the time, and I'm just wondering, is it really doing you any good? Mary, he hasn't gone out of town with you all of last year. You didn't get a birthday or an anniversary. I'm sorry.
Last year, you're right. It was just bad timing right around my birthday and our anniversary.
So then you wonder, does Mary even feel like she deserves anything? Hearing that, it sounds like Christine is kind of saying that. Or is Mary just more flexible? It's hard. It's really hard to know, because the group that they're raised in, they could be indoctrinated into a highly patriarchal culture that just says you're you're worthless as a human if you're a woman, and you just have to convince yourself of that. I'm going to convince you of that as your father or your mother or the leader of the religious group. But you have to convince yourself too. So is that what we're seeing right now? Or is she just more flexible?
Sorry. And so it never happened.
The other thing is I've seen Kody and Mary have intimacy, have bonding moments, at least from the edit. And she might say, well, yeah, I didn't get a birthday and I didn't get an anniversary, and that kind of sucks. But, me and Kody have a connection, and whenever we see each other, I feel that love, and he feels the love for me, and we're having sex or whatever, just the ball of wax. And I didn't need an anniversary or birthday. In terms of a trade, I'd rather get what I get than have an anniversary and a birthday and not those other things.
And I keep thinking, okay, it'll happen. I'm not at a point where I can just blow it off and it doesn't matter, because it does matter. But you know what matters more is the relationship that I have with him when he's around.
When he's around.
Right. That sounds like what she's saying there. I don't know, but that sounds like what she's saying.
I try and be happy. I try and be fine. Sometimes, I'm sorry, I cannot block that underlying current. So I just have to pretend that everything's okay.
No, you don't pretend that.
Yeah, I think they have different experiences. For Mary, she doesn't have that underlying current. She doesn't have that dissatisfaction. Does she have lower standards because she doesn't feel like she deserves it? That's one option. The other is that her and Kody just match better. They just have a better vibe. Each of those relationships would have a very different... just think about the past 4 partners that you've had. Each of those relationships, if you remember what they were like, had very different vibes. So, there's different vibes. And for Mary and Kody, maybe it's just a lot easier for them to get along and bond and feel close. And with Christine, maybe it's different. Maybe it's harder. So I think they're talking cross purposes there. For Mary, her message is sort of for Christine to just sweep it under the rug and try to be positive. But for Christine, for her, there's something's wrong here. I feel rejected. I feel like he doesn't love me, and I don't like that, and I can't live with that. Yeah. So it all just depends on whether or not Kody actually loves her. Because if he doesn't, we would never know. He might not even know because of the dogma that they're under. But if he didn't, then, what do you do? But if he does, then that's different. If he does, and there's just something that's being miscommunicated, and so a lot depends on whether or not he actually loves her or not.
But you make the best of it when you're together, and you figure out another way to work through your own issues without putting it all on him.
Yeah. So on one hand, the way she said it, you don't want to put it all on him. You've got things to do yourself. But the message is, don't bother him with your feelings. And I think Christine's like, what? I feel like he doesn't want to be with me. And it hurts. She isn't saying that here. She was saying it to him. I can't just avoid that. But Mary might not know that. Mary might actually be thinking that Christine is just nitpicking certain things instead of something more fundamental. I hope that Christine says that. I got to be clear, at the foundation of all this, I feel like he doesn't want to be with me. I feel like he doesn't love me. So what am I supposed to do with that? That's a very different question than that Christine is just being in a bad mood and nitpicking.
To work through your own issues without putting it all on him.
It went back to the courtship with Robin.
And you still have issues with that.
I do.
You're not moving past that.
No.
Is Christine saying, because of Robin, I no longer feel that he loves me because he doesn't seem to love me? Or is Christine saying, I just don't want Robin around. I don't want my husband to be with another woman aside from the two women that I knew when I first joined this family. And no matter how much love he has for me or gives me or communicates to me, I just don't like that he's with another woman. I wonder which one it is, or it could be both. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So a lot of us, including myself, we really wish that we had more time in the week, There's always so much to do. And if we don't watch it, we might pack our entire day with obligations, never taking any time for ourselves. I mean, think of all the things you would do if you had more free time, like going to lunch with a friend, or even, God forbid, going to therapy. But it's kind of a catch-22, because without therapy, we might be putting ourselves on the back burner, never allowing ourselves to take time for ourselves, to focus on us and our needs. So sometimes we just need to take that leap and allocate that 1 hour a week to therapy, that 1 hour a week just for us. Well, one place you can find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Until Robin came into the family, I was the last wife, and it was for a long time. And jealousy is a normal emotion where a new wife is coming along. It's been a long time since there's been a new wife. So I have a lot of conflicts going on in me, and that's really where my source of unhappiness is coming from.
Yeah. And for the other wives, they've already been through the experience of having a new addition. Also, people were telling me in the comments that Christine never wanted a fourth wife, never wanted Robin to be added, whereas Mary seemingly did, and Janelle was okay with it, I think is maybe the position. So if Christine never wanted it, then yeah. Or, I don't know.
Well, Kody and my relationship used to be easy. I realized that I was just special to him. How he would behave to me was just very open and very loving, and I felt very special. At the same point, I think that he was doing his best to have Mary and Janelle feel special as well.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Whether it's true or not, I think the way Christine has felt, the way she's narrativized her entire relationship with him is, he loves me the most. She's not saying that directly, and maybe that's not what she's intimating, but she's saying, I always felt special, and Kody always did his best to make the others feel special, right? I was special to him. He did his best to make the others feel special. That's different. Now, maybe I'm just reading into it, but it would explain some things. And it does align with other things that she said along these lines, that she felt that she was always his favorite, or at the very least, like no one was above her. Maybe there were some equals at times, but she was always, I don't know. It would be natural to think that way, right? In polyamorous polycules, there can be those kinds of conversations and experiences. It's actually rare that polycules will say, no, that person loves me and the other person exactly the same amount and exactly the same way. That's not typical. So for Christine, and maybe everyone was cool with that. I wonder how Janelle and Mary would feel about that. Maybe they're fine with it. Maybe they gave up a long time ago. They went through the hurt years a long time. I don't know. I just can't tell. But at the very least, I think what we're hearing is that at the very least, she has a direct competitor in Robin, and she doesn't like that. And maybe even Robin is now the special one. Or Christine is interpreting it that way, like when the new one is always a special one, just like I was a special one. And now that Robin's around, even though she's not the special one in reality, I assume she is because I was a special. I don't know. I'm guessing I'll never know because there's way too many nuances and details to, even if they really went into it, we still wouldn't know. There's way too much in there. But there's just so many fundamental questions I have whenever, and I won't bore everyone with me going over these questions again, but just one of them is, what would they be doing naturally outside of this religious group that very much has dogma around this, that dictates polygamy and da da da. What would they want? What do they need? Is it possible for everyone to get their needs met within this configuration? Even if it was, maybe it's time that Christine and Kody broke up and Christine found someone that made her feel, but that's not an option. So they're just stuck in the situation, and who's to blame? Who's not to blame? Is it just a product of the situation? I just can't tell.
And I think that he was balancing the three of us quite well. And I don't think he's balancing the four of us. And it's very difficult. No, I don't trust.
Because the contrast we have is with Mary. We don't really know how Janelle feels. I feel like Janelle is a little distant. I don't know. My impression is that she is distant. But for Mary, she is not interpreting it that way. She is not, or she doesn't care. Well, earlier she said she felt connected. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she. But both of these women are experiencing the same thing. The Robin edition. I mean, I guess Mary seemingly was more on board. Maybe even was the one suggesting it or something. I don't know. But then the former member that I interviewed said that a lot of the women will act like they're into it because they're programmed to protect the man from looking like a creep. So they'll act like they're, anyway, I don't know.
Like, how many times do you do something for Isabel and she just comes back and gripes at you anyway? How frustrating is that to you?
Very.
It's exactly how he feels. I'm so sorry I'm throwing it at you, but...
No, it's fine.
Okay, seems to be helping. It's still along the lines of infantilizing the women and putting it all on the women. So I can't really tell. I wonder if I pulled Mary aside and spoke in confidence with her, if she would say either, look, this is our lot in life. We don't have a choice. It's a massive patriarchy. There's no way around it. Or would she say, no, Christine, she has issues and she's too picky, or she thinks of herself as a princess and she needs to get over herself, or something else. I don't know.
I can take it.
You're the only person you can change.
Okay.
You can't change anybody else. Go have fun. Don't bring up problems with them. Just have fun with each other.
Okay.
Just have fun with
I
each
won't.
other.
Now, I will say that advice can be good. I have talked with couples about this. If every time they're together, say you have two working parents and the time they have together is limited, and they will prioritize what feels like the most pressing issues. There are conflicts, the times they screwed up parenting in front of the other person, and all of their time that they have available to have closeness and warmth is spent negatively. You have that happen for an extended period of time, and you can have a lot of ill will. You could snuff out any love that might be still there. So that advice isn't bad, but if it's an overall advice that Christine just needs to sweep it under the rug and not ask men for anything, then I'm not a fan of that.
Bring up problems.
And be happy.
Easier said than done, but all right.
It's really hard when another wife comes in the family because things are shaken up and you have to redefine who you are and what role you have in the family. And I think that's kind of what Christine's been doing.
Okay, that's interesting. That's in line with what I was saying earlier. I think that Mary sees it as Christine felt like she was the special one, and she had that role for a long time because she was the third. And now with the new one, Christine has to redefine. We all had to do that as well, and that's why Christine is having a problem. That sounds like what she's saying.
So growing up, I only ever wanted to be a third wife. Never wanted to be a first wife, was not interested in monogamy. I perceive the second wife as just the hardest position, just being a wedge, essentially, into a couple. And even though it's not intended to be that way, that's still how I saw it. And I just thought a second wife sounded like too much work.
Okay, interesting. It's Christine's perspective. I don't know if that's always the case, but she's saying that the second wife is tough because you feel like a wedge. So she always wanted to be a third. And then we heard from the former member, her name also Christine, and I don't know if this is an influence on them, but in order to get into the highest heaven, you have to have 3 wives. So I don't know, but it's possible that Christine might have felt like, well, if I find a family that already has 2 wives and I'm the third, then I can guarantee myself that we're going to get into the highest heaven. I don't know if that's what they're thinking. They don't mention anything like that, but, just seems logical that some might think of that.
It was easy. The first wife and the second wife had already worked all the glitches out, and I would just come in, and I would just get married, and then it would just be this easy flowing thing.
It's still spectacular enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way she says it, it makes sense. I don't know if it's always the case. I'm guessing it's not. I'm guessing every family is different.
Coming into the family, besides that I was in love with her, was that she was able to manage a very sweet relationship with both Mary and with Janelle, who were struggling to communicate with each other. And so Christine kind of came into our family and gave some stability in that you made our lives all a little bit lighter. She was like icing on a cake.
Interesting. So Janelle and Mary didn't get along at first. That's interesting. Yeah. Huh. They seem to rush in, even if it was just monogamy, they rush in, they don't get to know each other. The courting is very brief. There's no physical, they don't allow for any kind of physical compatibility test. Christine earlier, I don't know if I showed the clip, said that she thought that he was the way that he was in public, which was this happy guy, and then she learned that in reality he had this other side to him, which, yeah, because not everyone is their public persona. And she was surprised by that because I'm guessing she'd never dated anyone before and had never experienced that. Plus, if she was with him longer before they get married, she would have seen that anyway. But we're learning that Janelle and Mary didn't get along at first.
Perfect date.
Perfect date.
Perfect like many more yet to come.
Like many more yet to come.
I'm sorry, honey. It's been a rough year.
No, it's been a rough year for everybody.
Okay. I'll be more grateful, I promise. Mary had a good talk with me today.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you guys talk about?
She
All right, so they had a special date time helicopter ride, which might have helped Christine to feel more warmth from him. I mean, not just the helicopter, but him and his vibe with her. And then Mary helping, and now she is apologizing. I don't know if this is fair to Christine. It might not be, but it might be. I don't know. But this is a good sign, I think, for the two of them.
She pulled me on the carpet or whatever that's called.
She called you on the carpet? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. She just said I'm not being grateful for anything. I'm making it feel like I don't appreciate you. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I love you.
I love you.
We'll work it out.
I know.
If I were a little birdie on Kody's shoulder, and I don't even know if this would help, but I would suggest that he try his best within the time frame available that he make Christine feel special like the way she felt before. I don't know how he would do that, but some way of helping Christine to feel like she is distinct from the others, that she holds a particular role in his life. Because I think that is important to her. And also to, when they do have time together, to make her feel loved. It's just so much work, though. I mean, not that Christine is so much work, but it's inherently a lot of work because in my marriage, there isn't the constant threat of jealousy and time. You know, my wife gets all of my time and all of my love. And also, I don't have to constantly reassure her all the time. So I can go for a few days without making effort or something and pretty much be assured that she knows that I love her, you know. So it's interesting to think about how much energy he would have to put into it.
Like a lightning bolt struck me. So I ran into Mary, and Mary's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And she was so sweet.
Mary was very attracted to Robin on this sister-wife level. And she immediately starts kind of pushing it to me. And I'm like, "Oh, she's really cute, Kody." I'm like, "Yeah, she's cute, but she's divorced." And my initial reaction was, "Oh no." Mary was very excited about Robin.
Interesting. Yeah, that is the way they were describing it before, but now we're hearing the specifics, and maybe Mary would refute this, but this is in line with what we were hearing before more broadly, that Mary was the one that initiated it. And this sounds, and at the time I'm thinking, well, maybe he wanted Mary to initiate it, or he was actually pressuring Mary to initiate it or something. But from the description, and maybe this is a lie or a spin, but he was saying, I feel something there maybe with Robin, but she's divorced, so that's a no. And then Mary's like really hammering on it, and that's interesting.
And she's like, "You should ask her to dance." I think the first thing that...
All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.